Sebree was born in Houston, Texas. He attended Ridge High School and after graduating went to Arkansas Tech University and then transferred to Drury University and graduated in May 2001. Sebree quickly joined the military after the 9/11 attack in New York, and then in 2004 through 2005 was deployed to Iraq as a forward observer and was in Iraq for a total of 374 days. He is now actively working with the National Guard and is married to Erica with 3 kids. Ben Sebree was born in Houston, Texas. He attended Ridge High School and after graduating went to Arkansas Tech University and then transferred to Drury University and graduated in May 2001. Sebree quickly joined the military after the 9/11 attack in New York, and then in 2004 through 2005 was deployed to Iraq as a forward observer and was in Iraq for a total of 374 days. He is now actively working with the National Guard and is married to Erica with 3 kids. Ben Sebree was born in Houston, Texas. He attended Ridge High School and after graduating
It's the soldier, not the reporter who fought for freedom of press. It's the soldier, not the poet who fought for freedom of speech. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer who fought for freedom of demonstration. It's the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows protesters to burn the flag.
Please stand for the presentation of the flags, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Anna Grace McMorrin.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the sports we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome to our 12th annual Hour with the Heroes ceremony. We are pleased to introduce you Ben Sebree.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Or I guess this afternoon. Wildcats, right? Big game tonight. Hopefully you guys win it. My name is Robert Benjamin Sebree. I go by Ben. I'm a sergeant first class, United States Army National Guard. And just to give you a rundown of my history, kind of why I joined the military, was my freshman year of college, Arkansas Tech University, when 9/11 happened. That was a big impact in my life at that time, and basically it just shut down this entire nation for that one day. I look back on that moment and the decision I made to join the military and the profound impact that it actually had on my life. I joined and I went into a fairly dangerous job, combat arms, MOS, 13 Fox Forward Observer, which is, they call in the big guns. So they're on the ground, and their primary job, one of the primary jobs they have, is to set up a observation post, lookout post, and observe the enemy and neutralize the enemy if need be. So with that, so I joined, 2002 rolls around, I go to basic training, May of 2002, I actually signed the paper going the summertime, and I get there, and I get off the bus, I'm getting yelled at, whatever the case may be, and I'm lined up with this other guy who's straight across from me, and he's just shaking. He's shaking and like terrified, this guy. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what have I got into at that point? But like I said, going back, I knew what I wanted to do, so it wasn't a big deal for me. Fast forward, I get out of basic training. Shortly thereafter, my unit gets mobilized. So I think they had it up there earlier, 2004, I was actually in Operation Iraqi Freedom 2004. So my unit gets mobilized, and probably 3 months before that, my wife tells me that she's pregnant, right? And I'm like, oh, this is a big step for us. We just got married not too long before that. Just making that sacrifice, like I said, joining the military. I was like, there's a few loose ends that I wanted to do. I had married my high school sweetheart, who takes good care of me, by the way, and great woman, sacrifices a lot for me, whatever the case may be. So we move on and get there. She tells me she's pregnant, and it's like, geez, I'm about to leave. I'm going overseas. And long or short is 6 months into it, give or take, while overseas, Baghdad, Iraq, actually Taji, Iraq, just north of Baghdad, which was the military complex for Saddam's Fedayeen forces, I happen to call home, and my wife's given birth. And the sacrifice, I wasn't there. She was by herself. Of course, she had her family, but she did not have her husband, which was a big thing for us or whatever. So, I call home, and I'm like, she's in labor or whatever, is what they tell me. I was like, that's great. So the whole time this is going on, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, hey, what's this guy look like? I have no idea. No cell phone over there, nothing like that. And so it's curiosity compiled with, that imminent threat, that constant, dangerous, terrifying experience in the back of your mind that you may not ever get to see your son. So it was kind of interesting and a life-changing experience, like I said. But yeah, here I stand. Came back from that experience quite all right, and I met my son, I think, for the first time. I think he was 3 months old. And then I had to leave again to go back over there, I came back, he was 9 months old. But he's actually sitting right down here on the front row. His name is Ben Sebree. He's 13 years old. And as you can see, well, most of you obviously can't see him, but unfortunately for him, he looks just like me. But either way, so I kind of told you that rundown just to give you, my perspective on sacrifice. And then that little rant of a story or whatever that probably wasn't pieced together very well because I'm a terrible speaker, I wanted you to key on the sacrifice. The sacrifice that my wife made, the sacrifice, that I was obviously making for a specific reason, for what I felt was the right thing. The sacrifice my son had to make, and everybody else that was involved, friends, family, you name it. And at that time I was 20 years old. But either way, moving forward, coming back from that experience, there was some trial and errors. I was pretty angry. Of course, when you're over there and you're completely tested every single day, 374 for 374 days is the time I spent in country. There is always that possibility in the back of your mind that is today the day, is today the day that I may not, come back or whatever, that I'm going to be taking that long plane ride to the house, and that's all she wrote, But, and like, there's several members of the armed forces that have made that sacrifice, unfortunately, but that's the price that we pay to live in a nation of freedom. And, that's what being a veteran's all about. And at least that's my take on it. But up here on the board, I kind of threw together some pictures. Last minute, I've been working a lot. I'm still active duty, or AGR, so active guard reserve, as you would call it. So I put on a uniform every day, go to work, and I'm gone probably anywhere from 2 to 5 months a year. I'm kind of out doing different training events, kind of wherever we have them. Some down at Fort Chaffee, some down. This one right here was in New York. We had a little side trip, Fort Indiantown Gap. Had to go there for training exercise, and we kind of skipped over to New York for a couple days. And this is just a picture of that little thing right there. Is the World Trade Center Memorial, which is probably one of the most moving memorials that I've ever been to. And I've been to quite a few museums that are dedicated to, soldiers paying the ultimate sacrifice or stuff like that. But whenever you actually see, which the museum actually goes, I think 2 or 3 stories down underneath, and it's got the fire truck that was at the base of the tower. It's got all of the names of the people that were actually killed in the World Trade Center. And so it's a pretty phenomenal experience. And that's even if you weren't there. But so if you go to the next slide that we got. He told me to say next slide. Oh, there we go. And like here's some snapshots of my family. My wife up there top left, that's me and her. We're in Colorado doing some backpacking. Our kids are there as well. So don't think we didn't take them or whatever. But just that's what we got. So I know I'm saying a lot, but that's because I'm nervous. They told me I was going to be speaking to a classroom, and I didn't expect it to be an auditorium full of like several different classrooms. So I'll pay that guy back whenever I see him. But you go to the next slide. And here's some snapshots, just of my military experience, just the general whatever rundown. These two middle slides right here, the helicopter, and then the guy holding what looks to be an assault rifle, because that's what it is. There's some training that we do, the medevac training, and then that guy's just wearing his Arkansas hat, having a great time. And then, of course, the far left right here at the bottom, that's me and my wife at the St. Barbara ceremony, which is a patron saint of the Field Artillery. And that was, I believe, the year that I received that honor. So, and then just the different snapshots of stuff we've done. Gettysburg to the top left right there, and then the bottom right, little cannons symbolizes the Field Artillery. But either way, so with that, and just going back to experience and all of that, and sacrifice and everything that we know that Veterans Day is, or whatever the case is. I was going to take a little bit of time maybe to open it up to some questions for the audience, if you had any from me, or whatever the case is, or if you have somebody you kind of want to throw a shout out to that you know is a veteran, I'm cool with that too. So that's too easy. But if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I got no filter, so I apologize ahead of time. Right there. This. Basic training. All right, so he's going to ship out 16th of July. Well, basic training is, oh man, it's rough, dude. You did the wrong, no. No, it's, let's see. Obviously, there's lots of long days. So you're going to be getting up early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5, whatever it is these days. I'm not really sure. They're going to corral you downstairs. You're going to do some PT, some physical fitness, and you'll do about an hour to however long they deem is necessary. And you're going to go through that process, go to lunch, and do your training. So basic training is basically set up to get you ready to be a soldier is all it is. And it's to get you ready to teach you all the infantry tactics that you're going to have to refine over the next however many years that you're in the service, more or less. So you're going to learn how to shoot a rifle. You're going to learn, what the fastest run time you can do in a 2-mile run time is. You're going to know how many push-ups you can do in 2 minutes, how many sit-ups you can do in 2 minutes, and basically how much yelling, like 2 inches from your face you can take, I guess, as what it boils down to. So, but it's not that rough. I think the main issue for a lot of people is the fact that they can't handle the stress very well, so they kind of break down. But as long as you can keep it up top and just say, hey, they're playing a game with you and putting you in a stressful situation to make you react a certain way, because you want to be able to handle that stressful situation is how it's designed. So if you're not able to handle stress, then, obviously you wouldn't want to be in a combat situation, because it wouldn't be good for anybody. It wouldn't be good for you or the person next to you, So, yeah, not a problem. Any other questions? Surely there's got to be at least one. Like, hey, yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah. Okay, so she wants to know what it was like when I first saw my son after getting back. Well, I can tell you this. When I was overseas, coming back, it's a long plane ride. I forget how many hours, like 15, 16, or 18, I don't even know. The whole time I got a picture of him at that point, and I'm trying to visualize, what he's doing and how he's, what his mannerisms are, what color his eyes are, because I really can't tell from the picture, but obviously I know my wife or whatever. So the first time I seen them, it was just an overwhelming experience. I really can't explain it. It was more overwhelming because it felt odd, because here I was gone. You got to think, I did, I think 6 months of train up before I actually went, or is that right? Several months of train up before I actually went overseas, and that train up was at Fort Hood, Texas. So I was away from my wife at that point. If you count that training time all the way to deployment, I was gone a total of 18 months. So while she was pregnant. So just getting back and seeing him for the first time, first of all, he was huge. You know, he was 10 pounds when he was born, and 3 months later, he's even bigger than that, obviously, because he's an eater, and that's probably why he's a lineman now, I guess. I mean, but so just holding this guy, you know, here I am, 20 years old, just I don't know anything about kids at that point, you know, have no experience at all. So it was more of a like, what am I doing? Am I sure this is mine? Obviously, I knew it was, but it's a different situation, you know what I mean? Especially when you're that young and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, I knew what I was doing in Iraq. I did not know what I was doing at home. So it's like the first time you pick up something you have never done before. Let's just say you've never tried to draw a picture before, and you have never done anything, which most of you, I don't even know if you have, because everybody's got cell phones now. They probably don't work on their craftsmanship as much. So you pick it up and you try to draw, you're like, I'm going to draw a horse. And your horse turns out looking like crap because you've never done it before. That's kind of, you know, what it was like. Any other questions? Shirley, come on now. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, typical day for me overseas. Okay, so a typical day is I worked night shifts a lot or whatever, but I had a very interesting job as a forward observer. So my job was I was actually part of the intelligence section. So what I would do is I would get up and I'd walk to work, and it was like a mile and a half to I think where I was going. I didn't have obviously a vehicle. But I'd get there, I'd get in the TOC, which is Tactical Operations Center, and listen to all this stuff that was going on, a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I don't know, whatever. And we'd try to develop paint a picture for the overall battlefield. So we would compile data. Let's say small arms fire took place at this time at this specific location. We'd put it on a board, and then if that happened like several times, over the course of a week, we get a picture of kind of like, hey, this may or may not take place at this particular time and moment. So a lot of that was I helped kind of develop that picture as a forward observer within the intelligence section, but then also my commander tasked me with going out with the Iraqi Army, Iraqi National Guard, and every now and then I'd jump along with the Macedonian Special Forces, and we'd roll out and do patrols and whatnot. So if we got intel on a place that we thought, there was going to be some bad guys or they were holding up a weapons cache or whatever the case was, we would develop a plan and we'd go search that. And a lot of times I would go along just so I could detain people that we needed to detain, bring them back, question them, send them up to the, brigade facility for questioning and further processing. And so if we didn't find anything, obviously we wouldn't detain anybody. But if we went over there and found, this guy's got 5 AK-47s and 15 RPGs and so on and so forth, and he had rounds primed to be improvised explosive devices, I might want to talk to that guy or whatever. So that's kind of how it was, daily routine. Get up, go to the TOC, get the intel, figure out what's going on, and then basically see if who was going out on a patrol or a cordon and search is what we call them. I'd jump in the Humvee, and a lot of times they'd make space if they didn't have it or whatever. So, but that was my day, my daily grind. And then one other thing to add to that, everybody's like, "Hey, you were deployed. You must have been." It's not a 374-day firefight. I mean, a lot of it's 90% just boredom. You're just sitting there like, man, what is going on? I mean, we're doing this every single day. This is boring, whatever. And then 10% action. And I forgot who said that, but that's an absolute fact. It's, you'll get complacent. You'll be walking along, and then all of a sudden, somebody starts, popping off a couple of rounds, and you're like, holy crap, what's going on here? So, any other questions? No? No? No. Surely not, right? All right, well, if you don't have any other questions, I guess I will tell you about my most terrifying experience. How about that? Most terrifying experience. And we were on patrol in, I think it was a cordon search, or I'm sorry, a QRF, a quick response force. They were doing an IED sweep of the military supply route, or the MSR, basically the main highway that ran north to south from Baghdad to whatever that, Balad, up to wherever it went. So I jump in with a QRF, I'm like, okay, hey, there's nothing going on at night. I shook loose of the talk responsibilities because all I really needed to do was develop an intelligence summary, and that takes like maybe an hour. So I jump in the vehicle, we're rolling down the road, and all of a sudden the gunner, he says, hey, I think there was something in that box we had passed. And the primary responsibility is these guys are looking for IEDs. They're looking for bombs disguised as boxes, bombs disguised as culverts, bombs disguised as dogs, because they'd place them in dogs and whatever. So the convoy makes that loop, comes back down, heading south towards the fob, and we just turn back and we check out the box. Well, we clear it, take off, and it must have been 30 seconds. And all of a sudden the gunner says, contact. And he's got his weapon oriented the wrong direction. He's trying to swing it over to the right, to the east. He says, contact. And I must have been the only person that heard it, because I'm the only one that's like, gotta get this weapon over there, like, please. Because he's got the 50 caliber machine gun on top. And about that same time, I see a bright flash of light. I'm like, holy crap. And I have my MVGs on. It's the monocle one, or the whatever they call it. It's got the one, so the other one, and I flip it up because it's so bright that I flip it up, and all of a sudden I hear this boom on the left side, the west side, all right? What they're doing is they're shooting RPGs at us, and they're skipping just right over the top, and this gunner is just shooting away. And I couldn't tell you if he was shooting or not, because all I seen was tunnel vision. I was like, I'd see a flash and I would count like, ooh, that one looks like it's gonna hit this vehicle. And boom, hit to the left. So, and the whole time this gunner's just rocking this 50 cal. And of course, all the vehicles in the convoy are doing the same thing. They're shooting at the guys that are shooting RPGs. It was probably 2:30 in the morning, so it's pitch black. You can't see anything anyways. And all of a sudden, you just see these flashlight, boom, boom. I think it was probably 6 of them, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, small arms fire, things like that. I was most terrified I think I've been, and it's bone-chilling, to say the least, for me. But at that point, all you can do is just kind of clench your teeth and say, hey, all right, let's go around here. And then we swung back around and did another loop, drove through the same engagement area, and continued to engage. And that time I threw my window down and engaged the enemy, and of course you don't know, so you just don't know when it's your time, so it's terrifying. I don't really have any funny moments. I try, I think of a lot of funny jokes, but when I'm telling people to come out all stupid and wrong, so I won't bore you with that. But we sure we don't have any other questions? You're like, no, man, get off the stage. You're terrible. It's like, I can't help you, man. I got, I think, 30 minutes, so you're here regardless. You can sit there and we can stare at each other for all I care. I'm doing great? There you go. That's right. I am funny. No, I'm joking. Don't clap. You're not supposed to clap at that. That was about 28 seconds, I think. So you're doing good. You wasted 28 seconds. We got a long ways to go, I think. I'm joking. I'll do it again. I don't have a red card yet. Well, how much time do I got? 20 minutes? Oh, I got 3 minutes. Oh. All right, I got 3 minutes. Hold on. Another quick story. All right, so it's too easy. All right. I think I've been to 7 different countries, whatever. Like most of them, when I say I've been to several different countries, my plane flew in, I touched down, and they're like, "Hey, don't get off the plane." And I'm like, "Okay." And an hour later, we're taking off again. So in my mind, the wheels are on the ground. I'm actually in that country. You know what I mean? So whether it was Germany or Spain. Actually, I was in Spain. I was in Spain for 2 weeks because on the deployment, I was advanced party, and so I jump on the C5 Galaxy. All right, we got all the stuff loaded in the bottom, and I know you don't know what a C5 Galaxy is, but I know you got Google, and you can probably look it up. Either way, it's this giant plane, and when I say giant, you stand on the tarmac and you're like, how's this thing going to take off? There's no way. It's too enormous. I mean, I don't care how much wingspan and however that aeronautical stuff works, because I have no idea. So the pilot goes, and we're all loaded in the plane, getting ready we're going to hit boots in Kuwait first, and then roll on to our destination of Baghdad. When the main body gets there, we're going there to basically get everything situated before the main body shows up. That's what advanced party does. They're advanced party, so they can coordinate everything on the ground before the main element gets there. So we jump on a C5, and I'm sitting up top, and I got like a whole row to myself, and then looking over at my buddy who's sitting across from me. I'm like, man, this is great. I mean, it's like first class. These seats are comfortable, and I got a whole row. And the pilot goes, man, he starts taking off, and he shuts it down real quick. We're like, what happened? Well, it broke down. So, and I didn't know this, but I don't know. I mean, they say, like, I don't know how often these things break down. Personally, I think it's the pilot saying, hey, let's just break down here so we can stay here a couple nights, whatever, So that's kind of how I spent 2 weeks in Spain, because we fly on this giant C5 who had broke down before we even took off the runway. Somebody said that it caught on fire, like they seen it or whatever. I'm like, there's no way, dude. If this thing was on fire, surely they would have sent another C5 in here and not made us ride the same one that caught on fire out. But then again, I don't know. I'm naive. But so we touched down, and I have no idea what part of Spain it was, Air Force Base over there. And we're sitting there. And I'll tell you what, it's like we get there 2 weeks, we're sitting in the barracks just chillaxing. And the barracks is just open bays, bunk beds. But something about the Air Force gets all the money. And they have great barracks, and they have even better food. Army food tastes like paper for the most part. It's just terrible. But the Air Force really does it up right. So, like when I say I've been to Spain, that's the actual story. I spent 2 weeks there. But any other place, I'm like, the plane shut down on the runway, and I was like, hey, they're like, hey, don't get off, and you're done. Hour left until you take off again. But any other last minute questions that you may or may not have thought of? Yeah, no, your board attention span now I think is really diminished. So we got that. I think I had 3 minutes left. I'm sure that took 3 minutes of boredom out of you. Yeah, good. What's that?
You rock.
Okay,
At this time, we'd like to thank our Veteran of the Hour, Ben Sebree, for sharing his story with us. We are honored to have you here today. Presenting a special thank you is our very own Har-Ber High recruiter, Sergeant Brown. Let's give a round of applause to recognize all the veterans in our audience. On behalf of Har-Ber East, thank you for attending today.